What happens when a legendary athlete returns to the court, or disguised as a nobody? She walked onto the pickleball court in thrift store shoes, head low, silence trailing behind her. Laughter followed. They called her names, live-streamed her stumbles, and mocked her like she didn't belong. But no one, not even the smug pro who humiliated her in front of hundreds, knew who she really was, or what she was about to unleash. Keep watching, because her final shot didn't just win a game. It made the entire world stop and stare. The sun scorched the asphalt of the community pickleball courts as Lena Harper stepped through the rusted gate, her grip tightening around a worn canvas tote holding a single wooden paddle. She wasn't dressed like the others. No flashy sportswear. No neon sneakers with signature soles. Just faded jeans, a gray t-shirt clinging to her frame, and hair pulled back in a plain knot. She moved quietly, head slightly down, but eyes alert, scanning the courts where laughter and the crisp pop of balls echoed like a rhythm only the elite belonged to. A pair of women in sleek matching visors spotted her and exchanged a smirk. Lost? One of them asked under her breath, but loud enough to sting. Lena ignored it. Her name had been added to the open play roster. Court 3, doubles. She moved toward it like a soldier stepping into enemy territory. A group of high schoolers on a nearby bench snorted. "What's she doing here? Grandma wants to try TikTok pickleball." Another chimed in. "She better not break a hip." Their laughter followed her like a bad smell. Lena said nothing. She set down her bag and began stretching. Slow, controlled, disciplined, but each movement seemed to provoke more judgment. Kristen Hale, the court supervisor and rising pickleball influencer, strutted across the baseline with a clipboard in hand, pausing just long enough to give Lena a once-over. "Beginner's court is in the back," she said flatly. "I'm not a beginner," Lena replied quietly, but firmly. Kristen's eyebrows twitched. "Well, you're not dressed like a player." Another round of chuckles. A man of Lena's age and crisp Under Armour stepped forward. "She looks like she wandered in from the dollar store." That hit harder than it should have. Still, Lena walked to the service line, bounced the ball once, twice, just as she had thousands of times before. Only this time, no one noticed the precision in her wrist, the way her fingers adjusted grip, the quiet strength in her stance. She served a gentle opener toward the opposite baseline. No one returned it. Balls out. Someone barked, though it wasn't. Kristen crossed her arms, watching like a vulture. A younger woman named Casey leaned toward her, whispering, "She's not gonna last 10 minutes." Kristen nodded, lips curling. Lena adjusted her stance again, eyes scanning the court, and in that moment, under the blazing sun, surrounded by ridicule and filtered disdain, something inside her shifted. Not rage, not revenge, just focus. Quiet, merciless focus. The kind that only comes from people who've lost more than the game. Lena stood still, the paddle loose in her grip as the next group rotated in. A mix of cocky amateurs and flashy weekend warriors who strutted onto the court like it was a red carpet. One of them, a tall guy with gelled hair and mirrored sunglasses, turned to the others and pointed at Lena. "Did someone bring their mom to play? Or is this some kind of charity event?" Laughter exploded like a grenade. The game hadn't even started yet, but the show had. Phones were out. Recording, live streaming, capturing every second of her so-called awkward warm-up. One girl, no older than 20, leaned into her camera. "Y'all, this woman is really out here trying to play like she's Serena or something." She giggled. "Let's see how many times she falls in the first minute." The comment section filled instantly. Pickleball fail, court clown, is sha homeless. Lena pretended not to hear, but the flush creeping up her neck betrayed her. She bounced the ball, steady hands betraying the storm inside. As she walked toward her assigned side, she asked the player beside her, an awkward young man in a thrifted windbreaker named Eddie, "Mind if we warm up together?" Eddie shrugged, clearly uncomfortable, but polite. "Sure, I guess." They volleyed a few times. Lena kept it soft, precise. While Eddie's shots were frantic and uneven, the other side watched in amusement. Then, intentionally, one of them sent a hard drive straight at Lena. It clipped her arm. "Oops," the guy said. "Didn't mean to test your reflexes." "Grandma?" Kristen Hale clapped slowly from the sidelines. "Points for effort," she announced sarcastically. Another woman walked by and stage whispered, "Can someone get her a chair or maybe a walker?" Lena turned to ask a question. "What's the scoring system for today?" But the others walked away mid-sentence. No answer. No eye contact. Just a wave of dismissal. She stood there for a moment, forgotten. As the rest paired up and moved into place, the court suddenly shrinking around her. The only one who looked her in the eyes was Eddie, who offered a meek half-smile before turning back to adjust his stance. The match began. They served Eddie, over and over, avoiding Lena like a virus. She shifted, ready, but the ball never came. No need to feed her. Someone joked. She's got enough on her plate. Then they served at her. Finally, but fast, low, dirty. The paddle slipped from her hand as she lunged. She hit the ground. A gasp swept the court. Someone shouted, "Man down!" "Wait, I mean, lady down." Phone zoomed in. Her knees scraped, palms raw. But Lena stood up slowly, clutching the paddle again, eyes burning, not with rage, but with something deeper. Resolve carved from years of being underestimated. No one helped her up. Kristen shouted, "Shake it off! Rookie! Or maybe try Tai Chi instead." The court laughed. Lena blinked the sweat from her eyes, stepped back behind the line, and whispered to herself, "Let them laugh." But even she didn't know what was coming. Kristen Hale strutted onto the court like she owned the concrete, paddle spinning in her hand like a dagger, smile wide and polished for the cameras already rolling. "All right, folks," she called out, voice dripping with false charm. "Let's give the underdog her 15 minutes. The crowd chuckled. Phones were lifted higher. One kid whispered, "This is going to be brutal." Kristen pointed her paddle at Lena. "You ready, champ?" Lena didn't flinch. She nodded once, silently, like a soldier walking into a firing squad. The serve came fast. Kristen wasn't playing to win. She was playing to humiliate. Each shot she sent was a bullet aimed straight at Lena's pride. High lobs that dared her to miss. Sneaky corner slices that mocked her reaction time. One drop shot came so suddenly that it forced Lena to dive, her knee slamming the asphalt. The crowd gasped, then laughed, then cheered like it was a comedy show. Kristen turned, gave a dramatic bow, and waved like a pageant queen. "Oh, honey, that was close," she cooed. "But this isn't senior league," someone in the back shouted. "Tell her to stick to knitting," laughter roared. Lena stood slowly, her palms bleeding now, but her face calm. Too calm. A teen livestreamed the scene with a banner, "Pickleball Pro versus Pajama Lady." It surged past 50,000 views within minutes. Kristen smirked, eyes locked on her prey. She smashed another serve, this one straight at Lena's chest. The paddle deflected it, but the ball popped up, and Kristen slammed it back with a roar. Point, more laughter. Kristen walked over, towel around her neck, and leaned in close, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I don't know what fantasy you're chasing, but you're embarrassing yourself. These people paid to play, not babysit." She stepped back and added with venomous sweetness, "Maybe take up bingo or knitting or nap time." Then came the worst. Kristen motioned to someone on the sideline, who walked out and laid a folded lawn chair beside Lena's side of the court. Then he, mockingly, "In case she needs a breather." Kristen giggled, high-fiving a teammate. Phones clicked. A guy pretending to commentate shouted, "Lena Harper, the comeback nobody asked for." The match ended 11-0. A brutal shutout. Kristen raised her arms like she'd won a championship, soaking in applause. Lena stood there, bruised, scraped, humiliated. She turned to leave, but just then, a young girl in the crowd stepped forward through the fence. "Miss Harper," she asked quietly, holding a faded photo. "Are you Lena Hart?" The laughter froze. Kristen's smile twitched. Silence rippled like a crack through glass. Lena blinked. The photo in the girl's hand showed a younger version of herself. Gold medal, Team USA jersey, eyes that still burned with something fierce. In that moment, every laugh, every cruel word, every viral clip began to rot in the air. The tide was shifting, but no one was ready for the storm that was about to come. The court fell into a hush so sudden it felt unnatural, like the air had been vacuumed out of the summer heat. The little girl clutched the photo tighter, eyes wide with hope. Not mockery. "My dad showed me your matches," she whispered. "He said you were the reason he picked up a paddle." Lena looked down at the girl, her breath caught between memory and disbelief. The crowd stirred, confused murmurs rising like static. Kristen Hale stepped forward, forcing a dry laugh. "Kid, you've got the wrong person. That's not Lena Hart. Lena Hart retired like, what? 10 years ago." But the girl's father, now pushing through the crowd, spoke with the quiet thunder of truth. She didn't retire. She vanished after her son died. His voice cracked. She was the best. Gold in Barcelona, silver in Tokyo. She coached the national team before she disappeared. That's her. That scar on her wrist. Same one from the boating accident. Look at her eyes. That's her. Someone pulled out their phone, searching frantically. Then, an old ESPN clip played on full volume. A younger Lena. Fire in her stance, deadly calm, dominating on the court. A commentator shouted, "And there it is, Lena Hart with the unreturnable cross shot. USA takes gold." All eyes turned back. Lena was still standing in the same spot, quiet, haunted. "I didn't come here to be remembered," she said finally, voice low but cutting through the air like glass. "I came to see if I still existed." Phones dropped. Kristen stared like she'd seen a ghost. "This is insane," she muttered, but the video kept playing, CUO, clip after clip, shot after shot. Lena Hart in her prime, revered, unstoppable. A coach in the back of the crowd gasped. She invented the reverse spin dink. "Ooh, I thought Kristen did that." Someone else added, "Kristen stole that move." Another voice. She copied her whole style. Then silence again. Kristen's expression cracked. Her visor suddenly looked cheap. Her followers looked uneasy. Lena slowly knelt beside the little girl, touched the photo gently, then met the father's gaze. "Thank you," she whispered. He simply nodded, eyes misting. In the space of a minute, Lena Harper, the woman mocked, ignored, filmed like a joke, had shattered the lie that held this court together, and somewhere deep inside her chest, something old and sharp and alive flickered back to life. The storm had just begun. The tension snapped like a racket string stretched too tight. Kristen's laughter came too quickly, too forced. Okay. So, maybe she used to be someone. Big deal. That was forever ago. But the crowd wasn't buying it. Whispers turned to murmurs. Murmurs to judgment. Lena didn't move. She reached into her canvas tote and pulled out a zippered leather case. From it, she removed a paddle. Black, worn, and unmistakable. The initials L, H were burned into the handle, not printed, branded. Eddie stepped closer, eyes wide. "That's the Olympic issue model," he breathed. A nearby reporter started filming live. "We are witnessing the return of Lena Hart. Yes, that Lena Hart." The chat exploded. "This can't be real. She's a legend. Is this a comeback?" Kristen's skin turned pale beneath her bronzer. "Wait," she snapped, desperate to regain control. "If she's really Lena Hart, where has she been all this time? Why come crawling back to a public park like this?" Lena's gaze pierced her. "I didn't come to impress you. I came to see if I could stand on the same court again without breaking." She paused. "But now, maybe I'll give you something to remember." And with that, she stepped toward the baseline. The air thickened. Kristen blinked. "What are you saying?" Lena's voice came cold and steady. "One game, you and me, now." The crowd rippled. Some gasped, some grinned. Kristen scoffed, but her posture faltered. I don't have time for exhibitions. A new voice cut through the tension like a knife, then forfeit. Heads turned. From the park's entrance, a figure in a navy suit and aviators strode forward. Coach Sam Rivera, retired pro and now head of the Regional Pickleball Federation. Lena Hart taught you everything you know, he said loudly. You owe her more than ridicule, and if you don't accept her challenge, you don't deserve to hold a paddle. Kristen swallowed. Her voice wavered. Fine. One game. Cameras turned. Live streams surged. A crowd gathered so fast that the court looked like a stadium. Lena walked to her side with the calm of a woman who had nothing left to prove, but everything to reclaim. Kristen bounced the ball once, twice, too hard. Her fingers shook. The same player who had mocked Lena earlier whispered, "You sure about this?" Kristen hissed. "She's rusty. I'll end this in 10 points." But deep down, in a corner of her gut, she refused to name. A familiar fear was waking. She remembered Lena's footwork, the silent brutality of her control. She remembered being 17, standing at the edge of a practice court, watching a master at work. Lena raised her paddle. The past had returned. Not as a memory, but as a reckoning. The ball soared. Kristen served hard, sharp, aiming for Lena's left. Assuming age had dulled her reflexes, but Lena moved like wind, not rushed, not flashy, just terrifyingly precise. Her return sliced through the air and kissed the sideline. Untouched. 1-0. Someone whispered. Kristen blinked, unsure. She served again, this time feinting left, shooting right, but Lena was already there, waiting. Another point, then another, and another. Each stroke from Lena wasn't just skill, it was storytelling, a ballet of grief, fury, discipline, and resurrection. Kristen's footwork, once confident, became frantic. Her breathing grew loud. The crowd that once laughed was silent now, drawn in, hypnotized by the way Lena moved. Not with youthful arrogance, but with brutal grace. She anticipated Kristen's spin serves, countered her smashes with ghost-like drop shots that seemed to hover just above the net before dying gently on the court. Kristen tried to hit harder, faster, and more aggressively, but Lena's style wasn't powerful. It was poetry with teeth. She dismantled Kristen's ego one calculated shot at a time. At 9-2, Kristen slammed her paddle to the ground after missing an easy backhand. "You got lucky," she growled. Lena tilted her head, voice barely audible but sharp enough to cut glass. "You copied everything except the humility." The crowd stirred. Kristen screamed and launched into her next serve like a cannon. But Lena didn't move. She just waited. And when the ball came, she redirected it with a flick of her wrist, landing it in the corner. Impossible to reach. Match point. Kristen wiped sweat from her brow, panic in her eyes. Her serve was shaky now, uneven. Lena's return was soft, delicate, almost kind. Kristen charged the net to smash it down. But Lena was already there. Paddle low, arm steady. A cross-court kill shot ended it. The ball hit the ground like a gunshot. Game over. The silence was deafening. Kristen froze, her hands still raised, not ready to accept it. Phones are caught every second. Livestream comments exploded. She just destroyed her. That was a masterclass. Lena Hart is back. Lena didn't gloat. She didn't bow. She simply turned, paddle by her side, and walked off the court as if she had just finished a morning warm-up. Kristen stood in place, trembling. Her empire, built on mimicry and arrogance, had just been torn apart in 10 brutal minutes. A storm of applause rose behind Lena's back. Not for the win, but for the way she did it, silent, ruthless, and unshakably dignified. The internet didn't sleep that night. By midnight, the video of Lena's match had already hit 7 million views and was still climbing. Shared by influencers, former pro athletes, and even ESPN, who captioned the clip, "The Queen Returns. Lena Hart dismantles arrogance with silence." The hashtags trended globally. Lena Hart, pickleball legend, and Grace Under Fire. Kristen Hale's name also trended, worse, but not for reasons she could control. Comment sections turned ruthless fraud exposed. She copied every move. This is what happens when ego meets legacy. Her sponsors began pulling out. An official statement was released from Prime Pickle Sportswear. We do not support athletes who build reputations through dishonesty and humiliation. By sunrise, her coaching contracts were suspended, pending ethics review. Her own followers turned against her, flooding her pages with clips comparing her matches to Lena's older training videos. Identical footwork, identical plays, all stolen. Kristen tried damage control, posting an apology video in full makeup, blaming stress and competitive pressure, but the comments tore it apart. No one believed her. Meanwhile, Lena wasn't online. She was at the quiet edge of the park, sitting beside Eddie, the only one who had shown her basic human decency that day. He looked down at the ground, unsure how to speak. "You were amazing," he finally said. Lena smiled gently. "You were kind when no one else was." That matters more than the scoreboard. Later that week, Eddie received an unexpected call from the state's athletic board and an invitation to try out for a developmental program. "Coach Rivera gave us your name," the man said you kept your head when others didn't. Eddie's jaw dropped. His whole life had just shifted because of a single act of compassion. And Lena. She finally answered a voicemail from the Olympic Committee she'd ignored for years. "We saw the footage." The voice said, "The world wants you back. But even if you don't return, thank you. You reminded everyone why we fell in love with this sport in the first place." On a nearby pickleball forum, someone wrote, "You can't teach class. You can't fake soul." Lena Hart didn't just win a game. She handed us a mirror, and it spread like wildfire. 3 days later, Lena stood on the very court where it all began, not with a paddle in her hand, but with a microphone. A local news station had asked for an interview, but the crowd that gathered looked more like an audience hungry for something deeper than headlines. Kids sat cross-legged near the baseline. Former critics stood in the back, eyes lowered in shame. Eddie stood by the fence, nodding gently. The same windbreakers zipped up to his chin. Lena looked around, calm, steady, unshaken. When I walked onto this court, she began. No one saw me, not really. They saw what I wore, my shoes, my age, my silence. And they decided who I was before I ever touched the ball. Her voice was soft, but carried like thunder across the court. The world tells you that to matter. You have to wear the right brand, say the right thing, be loud, be seen. But I've learned dignity doesn't shout. It stands still when others run. It plays fair when others cheat. It listens while others mock. She paused, eyes locking onto the teenagers who had laughed at her just days ago. I didn't come back to win. I came back to face myself, to find the courage to pick up something I once loved and see if it still had a place in my hands. A tear slipped down the cheek of the young girl in the front row. The same one who'd held the faded photo. This court, this game. It's not about dominance. It's about discipline, kindness, control. It's about how you play when no one's cheering for you. A silence deeper than any applause settled over the crowd. Lena stepped back, placing the microphone gently on a folding chair. The ball doesn't care about your shoes. The paddle doesn't ask about your past. And life, she added, eyes scanning the faces, will test your soul long before it rewards your style. And with that, she walked off the court. Not triumphant, not victorious, but whole. And somehow, that was louder than any roar. Weeks passed, but the wave Lena started didn't fade. It deepened. Across the country, community pickleball courts reported a surge of new players, retirees who'd once been too ashamed, single mothers finding courage, kids from low-income neighborhoods showing up in hand-me-down shoes but with fire in their eyes. Her story became a case study in sportsmanship at coaching conferences. A short documentary titled The Return of Lena Hart premiered online and surpassed 10 million views in 5 days. But Lena wasn't chasing screens or headlines. She spent most mornings volunteering at youth centers, teaching basics to kids who had never held a paddle. One morning, she showed Eddie how to teach others, then stepped back, letting him lead. "You ready?" she said. He choked back a smile. "You sure?" Lena nodded. "They don't need a legend. They need someone who remembers what it feels like to be invisible." Eddie's story began to mirror her own. He was offered a scholarship to a regional training camp. His name started appearing in the local articles, not as a star, but as a symbol of quiet strength. He never forgot the moment Lena looked him in the eye when everyone else turned away. Elsewhere, the little girl with the faded photo joined her school's first ever pickleball team. On the day of their first match, she wore a t-shirt that read, "Play like Lena." Her father stood in the bleachers, hand over heart. Before serving her first ball, the girl whispered under her breath, "Grace first." Then fire. And then she served like thunder. Lena watched from a distance, cap low, unnoticed. She didn't need a spotlight. What she'd lit was already burning in others. The late afternoon sun spilled gold across the empty court, painting long shadows that danced over the faded lines. Lena walked slowly toward the center, her paddle in hand. Not the polished one with branded logos, but the old black paddle with the burned-in initials. The same one she'd held at the Olympics. The same one she had once planned to bury in a closet forever. Now it felt lighter in her grip, as if the weight of memory had been replaced with purpose. She reached the center line, paused, and looked up at the empty bleachers. No cameras, no crowd, no noise, just stillness, just peace. She sat down at the edge of the court, fingers tracing the edge of the scar on her wrist. For the first time in years, it didn't sting. It reminded her she'd survived. Behind her, a quiet voice broke the silence. Miss Hart. A young boy stood there, maybe 11, holding a paddle too big for his hands. "My mom says I play too softly, but I don't want to smash the ball. I want to play like you." Lena smiled gently. "Then you're already on the right path." She handed him a ball from her tote. "Show me how you serve." As he stepped forward and took his stance, she watched closely. His grip too tight, feet a little off, but his eyes were calm. Intentional, kind. She nodded. "You'll get there." As the boy ran back to join his waiting parents, Lena stood again, stretched once, then walked toward the gate. The world had changed, but not because she made a speech, or won a match, or went viral. It changed because in a world obsessed with loudness, she proved the quietest person in the room could hold the most power. She pushed open the gate, the hinge squeaking like a closing chapter. Behind her, the wind carried laughter, the rhythm of paddles, and dreams. She didn't turn back. She didn't need to. Her legacy was already planted, evolves in grit, in kindness, in fire tempered by silence. She never shouted. She never bragged. She never needed to, because Lena Hart reminded the world that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through dignity, through pain, through quiet triumph. If this story made you feel something, hope, anger, admiration, then maybe it's time we look twice at the people we overlook, because the next legend might be standing silently right in front of you. Don't scroll yet. Share this. Someone out there needs to remember that kindness, grace, and grit still matter.